Hey guys, welcome back to Fantasy Tipped. My name is Julian, and in today's episode, we're going to be doing a buy low, sell high players episode for you guys that want to do some trades. Now is a good time to make some trades because there are a lot of players who are really overperforming, and there are a good amount of players who are really underperforming, and they're players that you could buy really, really cheap. You guys seem to really like my last buy low, sell high video. That's why I'm doing it again this week. I think what I'm going to do from here on out is do a buy low, sell high video every second week. And the weeks that I don't do a buy low, sell high video, I'm going to do an injury update for you guys. Before we get started, guys, please leave a like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Would really appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much. So in this video, in order to back up my selections, I'm going to be using the help of advanced stats. I'm going to be talking about three in particular. The first being shooting percentage, which is the amount of goals you score based on the amount of shots you take. The higher the shooting percentage, the more unsustainable it is. League average is about 10%. Next is on ice shooting percentage, which is the amount of goals your team scores while you are on the ice, which should also average about 10%. A lot more than that, and you're getting pretty lucky. And the last one I'm going to be talking about is PDO, which is literally a measure of luck. It should always be about 100%. If it's well over 100%, you're getting really, really lucky. If it's significantly under 100%, you're getting quite unlucky. Let's jump right into the content now, and let's start with sell high players. And the first player that I have is Kevin Shattenkirk of the Anaheim Ducks, who's up to 12 points in 13 games. He's having a really, really great season this year, but unfortunately, he's really unsustainably high. He managed only 15 points in 55 games last year. Yeah, obviously that was an off season for him, but he's almost at that total already this year, right? He's doing great, and he's getting a lot of power play time, so he's not going to be terrible for the rest of the season, but this guy's 84% owned, and you could probably sell him really, really high and get a really good player. He's a goal and a half above average. His on-ice shooting percentage is 18.6, and his PDO, which is a measure of luck, is 114.2, which means he's getting very, very lucky. So try to sell Shattenkirk now while you can, while he's still really, really valuable. Next is Troy Terry, and he's been a really unexpected breakout player this season, and it's really great, right? He's looking really good on the ice. He has 8 goals and 7 assists through 12 games for a total of 15 points. He's really, really looking great out there. And unfortunately, though, it's kind of unsustainable, at least for his goals, right? His on-ice shooting percentage is 13.5, so that's not that bad. It is still a little bit high, but his shooting percentage, his personal shooting percentage, is 32%. That is quite high, and there's no way he's going to keep that up. So he's not going to be scoring as many goals as he's been getting. Therefore, he's not going to be as valuable as he is currently. If you can find someone who values him at the pace he's going right now, I would absolutely trade Troy Terry. If you're trying to trade him to someone who knows that he's going to decline in goals a little bit, it may not be worth it to trade him. Just try to get someone who will pay for Troy Terry at his current value. Next is Adam Henrique of the Anaheim Ducks, playing on the top line with Troy Terry and Ryan Getzlaf, having a great season with 11 points in 13 games. And if you look at his, in-depth stats, his shooting percentage is 14.3, which is definitely a little bit high. And his on-ice shooting percentage is 13.5, which is also a little bit high, but it's not that high. So yeah, the underlying numbers say that his pace is, is a little bit high, but it's not super crazy high. He's never had more than 51 points in a season, and that was 10 years ago when he was much younger. He's on pace for over 69 points this year, which is not going to happen, even if he does stay on that super, really good, honestly, looking top line with Terry and Getzlaf this year. They will slow down at some point, and Henrique will finish around the 50-point mark or so. Maybe a little bit better this year just because Troy Terry is a very great line mate, and Getzlaf's looking good again, but honestly, it's not going to be that much higher than that. This is the 4th Anaheim Duck in a row in this video. I know there are a lot of them, but this is the last one. It's Ryan Getzlaf, and this is kind of an interesting case, right? Because Ryan Getzlaf underlying numbers suggest that he's getting unlucky. His shooting percentage right now is only 2.7%, which is insanely low. He only has 1 goal so far. And his on-ice shooting percentage is 8.3, which is also pretty low. The average is 10. So yeah, he's been unlucky, but has Getzlaf really found the fountain of youth? He's 36 years old now. it's pretty unlikely. Last year, he only had 17 points in 48 games, which is a lot more than he's played, and he's already approaching that mark. So yeah, he's definitely going to have a better season than last year, but will this super hot play continue? It's definitely possible. Getzlaf, when he was younger, was definitely a player who could put up these kind of figures. It just seems unlikely to me. So if you found someone who values Getzlaf in his prime and is willing to trade a lot for Getzlaf, I would absolutely make that trade. Next is Alex Killorn of the Tampa Bay Lightning. He's already up to 7 goals in 11 games while only firing the puck 22 times. He's basically scoring 1 out of every 3 shots he takes, which is super unsustainable, guys. His on-ice shooting percentage is also a little bit high at 16.2. So there's no way this guy keeps up this kind of pace. And last year in fantasy, this guy was owned in 30 to 40, sometimes 50% of leagues. This year, he's all the way up to 72% rostered. Not really sure what that's about. He's still getting top power play on Tampa Bay, just like last year, and he's skating on the second line with Steven Stamkos and Alex Barré-Boulet. It's a decent line, so he should definitely play decently. He's just not going to keep scoring at the pace that he has been. He's a borderline rosterable player, kind of like he was last year. So if you can find someone who values him higher than that, I would absolutely deal Killorn. He's never hit more than 49 points in a season. Next is Tyler Bertuzzi of the Detroit Red Wings, and he's up to 79% rostered. So he's looking like a lot of people really value Bertuzzi right now. His shooting percentage, though, is a ridiculous 36%. He's scoring on over 1/3 of his shots, which is just ridiculous. It's not even close to sustainable. And he's 5.6 goals above expected. So his goals are going to regress a lot. His assists could potentially stay about the same, but his goals are going to regress. Right now, he should have 4 goals-ish, 3 or 4 goals-ish. So his numbers would not be so spectacular. They'd still be pretty good, but they wouldn't be as spectacular. So if you can trade Bertuzzi to someone who values him for the amount of points he has right now and thinks that he can sustain that, you're going to get a really good trade. Let's move on to his line mate, Lucas Raymond, and he's a rookie, right? So we don't really have any precedent to compare really his potential, but the dude's up to 14 points in 13 games, and he's looking pretty good. His shooting percentage is a little bit high, and his on-ice shooting percentage is a little bit high as well, but they're nothing that are too crazy. Raymond is definitely a super talented player, so if you want to keep him and ride him, go ahead. I just think he's going to regress a tiny bit. I don't think he's going to keep playing at over a point per game pace this year. Considering that his line mate, Tyler Bertuzzi, is bound to regress a little bit, by default, Lucas Raymond is going to regress as well. If Bertuzzi is scoring fewer goals, Raymond's getting fewer assists. I still think Raymond has a really solid season and likely hits 60 points, but I don't think that he's going to be at a point per game pace or higher this season. Next is Elias Lindholm, and he has a 22% shooting percentage right now. And that should be all you need to know. That's really high, and that's not going to keep up. He's already got 7 goals and only 32 shots. Like, that's pretty crazy, and he's not going to keep up those kind of numbers. His PDO, that measure of luck, is at 112% as well. So he's just getting very lucky right now, and he's definitely still a really good player and could potentially put up a point per game pace, but he is well above a point per game pace right now. So if you can trade him to someone who values him at that value, go ahead and do so. Next is Gustav Forsling, and he has 9 points through 11 games. No goals, but he's doing really well. He's a guy on Florida who's not really getting any power play time, yet he's still producing. And I don't think he's going to be terrible for the rest of the season, but he's definitely being valued high right now. His PDO is 106 right now, which is pretty high, and his on-ice shooting percentage is 12.6, which is also a little bit high. So his numbers will regress a little bit, but obviously his shooting percentage won't stay 0. He's going to pop in a couple of goals this year, but it's not going to be anything crazy for Gustav Forsling. I'm not super high on this guy, and a lot of people are adding him right now, so go ahead and see what you can get for Gustav Forsling. Next is Andrew Mangiapane, a third liner on Calgary who's already up to 7 goals in 11 games in only 23 shots. So this guy is shooting at 30%, which is about a goal in every 3 shots he takes, which is absolutely crazy, and that's not sustainable. He's a third liner, guys. While he's a very good third liner, he's not someone that should be rostered in 54% of leagues. And if you can get someone even half decent for him, I would absolutely make that trade. So that's it for my 10 sell high candidates. Let's jump now into my buy low candidates, and let's start right with my Manscaped must-buy player of the video, Kevin Fiala. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code word FANTASYTIPPED at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com with the code word FANTASYTIPPED. Unlock your confidence, guys, and always use the right tools for the job. Now the holiday season is approaching, guys, so get your Christmas shopping done early with the code FANTASYTIPPED at manscaped.com. Get your holiday shopping done in advance this year. Kevin Fiala of the Minnesota Wild, he's having a bit of a rough start to the season. He has 5 points in 11 games, which isn't terrible, but it's not good by any means. He's shot the puck 33 times and has only scored 1 goal. He has a ridiculously low 4% shooting percentage because of it, and his on-ice shooting percentage is not any better. It's 6.9%, which should be a lot better for an elite talent like Kevin Fiala. He will definitely turn it around, and he's someone that you should definitely buy low. He's someone who usually starts the seasons pretty slowly and then always breaks out towards the end of the season. So Kevin Fiala is someone that you should absolutely be trading for. Next is Roope Hintz. He's getting really unlucky this season. His PDO is 95%, which means he's getting quite unlucky. His on-ice shooting percentage is 4.7, and his personal shooting percentage is 0 because he hasn't scored any goals. He's 3.4 goals below expected, and he's got to turn it around at some point because his line mates Robertson and Pavelski are starting to turn their seasons around. They're starting to look pretty good, so it's only a matter of time till Roope Hintz turns it around. Next is John Klingberg of the Dallas Stars, Hintz's teammate, and if Hintz starts to turn it around like his teammates Pavelski and Robertson, Klingberg by default is going to start to turn his season around a little bit because he plays on the same power play as those guys and so far has been incredibly unlucky. His PDO right now is 93%, which means he's had a lot of bad luck. That power play should start to catch fire a little bit coming up soon because the guys on it, Pavelski really starting to turn his season around, and I do believe Hintz is going to turn his season around very, very shortly. Klingberg is someone you should go out and get because he's valued really low right now by a lot of people. Next is Jeff Petrie. He's actually been pretty unlucky this year in Montreal with a PDO of only 95%. He's actually currently not seeing the majority of the power play time in Montreal. That duty currently belongs to Chris Weidman. Now, I don't think it's going to last forever. Petrie is definitely the better player. He just has to start to show it. As soon as he does, that power play job is his again. And I think Petrie is a very, very good defenseman and could definitely turn it around this year. That being said, the Habs are not good this year, and I'm not paying a ridiculous amount for Jeff Petrie just because of that. Next is Dominik Kubalik, and he's a guy who has an incredible shot, and he's really great at scoring goals. This year, he's only scored 3 goals in 34 shots in 13 games. He can do a lot better than that. He's a really good shooter. On top of that, his PDO is 93.3, which suggests that he had a lot of bad luck so far, and his on-ice shooting percentage is 6.8, which suggests that it's really going to increase, and Dominik Kubalik is a really great buy low candidate. He's currently playing with Patrick Kane. Next is Jacob Chychrun of the Arizona Coyotes, and a lot of people have given up on this guy, which makes you probably able to buy him for an incredibly cheap price. He only has 1 point through 12 games, but he's doing basically everything else except for putting up points. He's amongst the league leaders in shots on goal. He has over 1 block per game, and he's hitting a decent amount as well. Now, his PDO is an insanely low 84.9%, which is pretty much the lowest I've ever seen. He's been insanely unlucky. He also has an on-ice shooting percentage of 1.8%, which is abysmally low. Like, that's absolutely crazy. Things are bound to turn around for Chychrun at some point, even though he plays for an absolutely terrible team. He should start scoring goals pretty soon, and you could basically get this guy probably for almost nothing. Next is Nico Hischier of the New Jersey Devils. He only has 1 goal and 4 assists through 10 games. A point every 2 games is not terrible, but Nico Hischier should be doing better. He's proved over his career so far that he's a pretty good shooter, but right now he's only shooting at 4%, which is way lower than his career average. He's 3 goals below where he should be. Right now he should be at 4 goals and 4 assists, which would be 8 points through 10 games. And his assists are basically right on par where he should be right now. So at that pace, if he can turn his goals around, which he definitely should, he's on pace for a 64-point season, which would be absolutely great for him. That's not going to happen though, because Jack Hughes will come back and he's going to be reduced to a little bit of a lower role. So he's not going to quite hit that 64 points, but he's definitely a really good add for right now, guys. Jack Hughes is still out for quite a few weeks, so Nico Hischier can definitely provide you some value right now. And if he's available on your free agency, go ahead and grab him. And if you're able to trade for him for almost nothing, I would do that as well. Next is Alexander Radulov, who only has 1 goal through 11 games, and through his career in the NHL, he's proven that he can score at a really high pace. He's always had a really solid shooting percentage. Right now, it's at 5.3. 5.3 is not a good shooting percentage at all, and as long as he stays healthy, he could definitely turn it around and have a pretty decent season. Radulov is someone you could definitely buy low. Next is Anders Lee, who's currently being mass dropped in a lot of leagues, and he's someone that you might just be able to pick up off your free agency. Anders Lee has proven over his career that he is an absolute sniper. He's someone that knows how to score goals, and he's able to maintain a pretty high shooting percentage. So far, he has 4 goals through only 22 shots. Yeah, I'd like to see him shoot a little bit more, but he plays on a pretty elite line with Barzal and also top power play with Barzal, so he should have himself a pretty good season. Anders Lee currently has 0 assists, and that's not his strong suit, but he's definitely going to put up a few, which raises his floor a little bit more. I don't mind going and trading for Anders Lee. You won't have to give up very much at all. And last but not least, I have Tyler Toffoli as a buy low candidate. Why? Because he's always shot the puck a lot. He's only got 7 points through 13 games. His PDO is a little bit low, so he's getting a little bit unlucky. And now he's playing with Suzuki and Hoffman on the top line, and Suzuki is starting to catch fire. Suzuki is an amazing player. He also plays with him on the top power play in Montreal, so Toffoli can go nowhere but up. You might be able to get Toffoli at a pretty decent discount. I think he's a very good buy low target. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching all the way through. Please leave a like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. I hope you guys enjoyed the content today, and I'll catch you in the next episode of Fantasy Tipped.